Okay, Jimmy. Well, I thought this would be kind of a fun little thing here. So I made a TikTok, YouTube short talking about an event that's going to take place, and we've talked about this before, but I thought we could bring it up again with just the topic here, Jimmy. Is blood and cheese worse than the red wedding? And by worse, I mean more like heartbreaking. Is it more? I mean, they're both obviously great storytelling moments, but will it be as shocking, as heartbreaking to watch?
I think, and I don't think this is recency bias, but I think blood and cheese is actually a worse thing because there's a psychological piece to it of like, hear that? Your mother wants you dead, boy. Like that is so brutal. And there's survivors from this, which there are survivors from the Red Wedding as far as like Edmund gets carried off or whatever. But like, and then we have, of course, Lady Stoneheart, but we have people who do not come back as like supernatural vengeful moms from the dead with the Lord of Light, embodying them or whatever. But for blood and cheese, you have people who are having to live with those consequences of someone else's actions. I also feel like it was done to very innocent people that happen to be bystanders, which of course a lot of the Red Wedding happened to as well. But Rob did go back. I'm not saying he deserved it by any means, but like a logical person probably should have been able to see that there were red flags, and they trusted the fact that they were breaking bread under a roof of a somewhat of an ally, of someone they wish that was an ally. So like I know there's leeway there, but it just feels like blood and cheese is a really terrible thing happening to bystanders that just because they share names in wedding vows are being, killed, right, and have to live with it afterwards too. Right. So I personally, also, it's kind of in the comfort of their own home, which is also horrible. Like I think blood and cheese, like bar for bar, is worse.
Yeah, and I made a TikTok about this, and the thing I was arguing was that I think I agree with you. I think it's gonna be blood and cheese because Helaena has, first of all, it's Helaena Targaryen who is kind of like a bystander in this whole thing. Right.
Yes. And I guess we should say spoilers for Fire and Blood and House
for sure. Yeah. So, you have Helaena Targaryen, who really is kind of an innocent bystander in this whole thing. I mean, just the way that they portray her on screen, her character, we don't really get that much of her in the Fire and Blood book or any of the context. But it's not like she's out there saying, hey, we should go get revenge on them and we should, go kill them and everything. So you have this woman who's kind of like an innocent bystander, unlike Robb Stark, who did betray the Freys and is at war with the Lannisters. While this is all going on. I mean, he's like the main focal point of House Stark. So then you have this woman who then is forced into a decision in which she has to choose which one of her sons will live, and then tries to make the most humane, I guess, if you want to, decision. Yeah. And says, I'll choose my younger son to die because he's so young, he won't understand what's going on. And then they choose the older one. So then she has to live with that guilt. And then the son also is going to spend the rest of his life knowing, my mom chose me to die.
And imagine future relatives, whether it be grandchildren or nephews or whatever, asking about the story, and then like they're hearing the story, and then you're being judged for. I mean, it's just a horrible thing. Both are, but blood and cheese seems to me more psychologically torturing.
Yeah. So the way I phrased it on the TikTok, I said it will be a moment so shocking that even George Martin said it might be too dark, which we did see, which Martin said that obviously in that post. We got some comments of people saying like, did you not see the Red Wedding? You have a pregnant woman getting stabbed in the stomach. There were other moments like Arya feeding Walder Frey his sons. Some other people commented and said, yeah, nothing will compare those moments to forcing a mother to choose which one of her kids will die, and then seeing, like the opposite happen.
Yeah, it's a bit of a quieter moment, and I know that's a weird way of describing it, but it's not a massive wedding with hundreds of people in different houses there, right? It's a way more intimate moment that only the people in that room will ever know exactly how it went down and everything. So it's a much quieter moment. So it remains to be seen whether or not the execution could live up to something like the Red Wedding. I think the Red Wedding also will probably feel like a bigger deal than this, because it had 3 seasons building up to this, and immediately when the Wedding goes down, in retrospect, you think about everything that's happened to this point, and things start lighting up like a Christmas tree in your head. Like, oh, this was a big mistake. This was a sign. This wasn't. You know what I mean? So it
Right.
recontextualizes the first 3 seasons of the show, and then obviously the books as well. So I think that this is going to have a lot of shock and a lot of awe. It might even be more disturbing overall.
Do you
It'd be hard
think
to top the Red Wedding's impact culturally.
right? So the Red Wedding, of course, takes place also at the end of a season, whereas
Yeah.
this is going to be kicking off a season.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. I assume Blood and Cheese will be the finale of the episode, like the last act
Yeah.
of the episode, but who knows? Maybe an episode opens up with Blood and Cheese. I mean, we don't know. So
Oh, I feel like that's how you end episode. That to me, that's the perfect way to end episode 1, to where everyone's like, I can't wait to watch next week, because they're going to want to see what they do in response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just really hard to be culturally as impactful as the Red Wedding. So I'm under no I'm not fooled into believing that it's going to be as big as the Red Wedding, but I think it could be as disturbing and as impactful to those who do watch it.
Yeah, the way that, and this is kind of also like an episode 1 prediction here. This is kind of the way I think it's going to go. I think episode 1 is going to start, and we're going to get, maybe they start and we start in Winterfell, because I think that's like the place.
It's
to
pretty
start.
much confirmed, I think, at this point.
Right, that's going to be the opening scene of like, okay, we're already making moves to like figure out what's going on in Nuttwork. Remember, they all flew off to go do the thing. Then we already know that she knows about what happened, that he fell, because that's basically how the show ends, right? Is that look of Rhaenyra's face. But then we'll have to go to see Alicent's side of it and see, what like she's hearing about it. And maybe she tries to like reach out to Rhaenyra to be like, I didn't know that was going to happen. Something to where it's almost like they decide that we're not going to kill each other's like grandchildren or something. And then it's going to end with Daemon maybe going against what Rhaenyra wants. For like this type of specific retribution, and then that's how it goes, because you have to amp the stakes across the whole board for the whole thing. So then it's going to be like Rhaenyra may not have even wanted it, and Alicent, like they thought, okay, some kind of like truce or Geneva Convention
limits,
rules,
right? Yeah, Geneva Convention,
rules, if you will, of war here. So, and then Daemon goes against it, and then it's like, okay, now it's really going to kick off. So, yeah, I feel like the stakes might feel higher in this just because it's only 2 sides. Whereas the Red Wedding took place at the end of the season. I think the big deal about the Red Wedding was everyone at that point was rooting for Robb Stark to win the whole thing. Like that's kind of the way it felt like it was going to go.
Yeah, I mean, depending on what side of this thing you're on, you might not. I don't want to say you wouldn't mind. I hope everyone would mind Blood and Cheese, but like maybe people are like, that's what they get. It's I don't know how people are going to react, especially because the culture of the internet now is different than it was back when the Red Wedding was a thing, right? Stan, and of course, Twitter is a thing. People picking sides, digging in.
And a lot of this is also, people, we're talking really about the mainstream viewers here who are not going to ever touch the books. They're just going to watch it. For what it is to see. But it's going to be interesting. But I just have a feeling Blood and Cheese might be worse. And we mean worse in the best possible way.
Like for those experiencing it, I think it will probably haunt them for a while.
Yeah.